The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show. 11 years have gone by in the Scream world, and we are about to return to Woodsboro for Scream 4 in our Scream retrospective. And still in one piece for that slice of terror is Jessica Alsman.
Hello.
And Greg McGoon.
Howdy.
All right. How are we today? You're still here.
I mean,
Yeah.
I went down
Three
a
of us.
Scream wormhole after watching the fourth one. I think, Greg, you're talking about watching all these
Yep.
like random. It just starts with one, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, and if one auto
Yep.
plays, you're like, oh, what's this channel about? And he's got more.
Yep.
So now I'm just like Scream overload,
Gotcha.
and hopefully I don't mix up the movies.
Gotcha. Very well. Who knows? So this one, yeah, let's get right to Scriforum. That's how they wrote it. Scriforum.
The story that redefined fear
Hello. Hello. Hello.
is back.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Two girls killed the exact day of the anniversary of the infamous Woodsboro murders.
On April 15th,
This whole situation's under control.
getting scared
This isn't a comedy, it's a horror film.
has never been this much fun.
You should have seen the look on your face.
Scream 4, rated R.
So it's directed again by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson, but with some heavy rewrites from series villain Aaron Kruger and someone named Paul Harris Boardman. Don't know him. Starring Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Emma Roberts, Hayden Panettiere, Marley Shelton, Rory Culkin, Allison Brie, Eric Knudsen, Anthony Anderson, Adam Brody, Mary McDonnell, Marielle Jaff, Nico Tortorella, Lucy Hale, Shanae Grimes, Anna Paquin, Kristen Bell, Britt Robertson, Amy Teagarden, and Roger Jackson as the voice. 10 years have passed, and Sydney Prescott, who has put herself back together thanks in part to her writing, is visited by the Ghostface Killer. Not the Wu-Tang Clan member, the guy from the series, the costume that has been haunting her for her whole life. So this is also the final film of Wes Craven. Sadly, he passed in a surprising way in 2015. Just like, oh yeah, brain cancer, been dealing with it. Okay, sir. But so this is it. Scream 4. It comes back 11 years later, where horror has changed since Scream was around. It's obviously not king anymore. There's other things in play. But when Halloween comes back and Friday the 13th comes back and Nightmare on Elm Street comes back, text like all those, you're like, well, someone gonna bring Scream back? And yes, they do. And I was pretty excited for this movie when it was coming out. My hesitation was, Kevin Williamson's back. Oh, cool. Kevin Williamson, this is it. This is all right. Very cool, very cool. And then when it's like, oh, he walked. He left. He got pissed. They separated. So then my hesitation built with going into it. But where were you at Scream 4? Let's start with Greg when that was announced and stuff.
So I was living in New York at the time, and I had been in New York for 3 years at this point. And one of my friends at the time, Natasha, she was a massive Scream fan, a screamer as now I'm going to call us.
Screamies? No?
Screamies. We're Screamies.
Screamers?
When they announced that, well, we had heard about it. I forgot how early in advance that they announced a fourth was happening, because I feel like it was at least a year ahead, if not longer, before the movie actually came out. They were like, a fourth is officially happening. And we were like, hold the fort, let the countdown begin. We're like a year and a half away, but we're on it. And we were overly excited about it. And I just remember when it came out, I was first day it came out, first release, and then I watched it. I loved it, but I wondered why it looked like it was filmed with the same cameras and filters that RuPaul's Drag Race used, because that thing was glossier than anything I've ever seen before. And I was like, what happened to this movie? What, like, I actually
Yeah.
thought there was something wrong with the theater when I saw it. Like, did they have like something on the lens? Like, why was it like this? And then I found out it was intentional. So story wise, I was all in. Film quality, I was confused and had to do some digging after watching it.
So, Greg, do you think the film quality, is it to make it, because at the time, the big thing was these Michael Bay Platinum Dunes produced remakes that were glossy, overly polished versions of these classic slasher and horror movies that were dirt cheap movies that were grimy back in the day, and now they're making slicker versions of them. Do you think it was an attempt to aim at that at all? Like, I haven't listened to this commentary for this Scream movie. I haven't listened to the commentary. I've listened for all of them but this one, and I wanted to get this one in with a commentary, but I wasn't able to before this. But I'm wondering if it was an attempt to do that.
It was an attempt to do something. I don't know what exactly it was. I know I remember watching something or a video that did actually explain the intention behind that glossy look. And the glossy wasn't as much of an issue, because I don't mind the higher saturation. I don't mind all that, but I don't like the haziness of it, the flares, the light flares, like the beamingness of it.
It's like a
Like,
gloss. Yeah.
it really does look like what they Vaseline the lens.
Mhm.
Like RuPaul's Drag Race season 1, when you're like, what is happening here? Like, it's just, I don't know, like, there's no sharpness to this movie. For a movie called Scream, well, at least it's not Stab this time, because that would be ironic if a movie called Stab wasn't very sharp. Haha. But like, I felt like nothing in this movie felt sharp. Like, either I was looking at something that was slightly out of focus, even though it wasn't. I just don't know why they wanted that veneer. Like, I feel like they did because they wanted to do a reset. They wanted to, like, create a false sense of comfort. But once you're starting to dig into it, like, at least Dorothy got to go into another world. Like, drop the filter when the killing happens and go, like, reality is here. Like, I wouldn't have mind if the opening was glossy and then we got into the movie and you're back to like the grit or something, where it's like, oh, we're taking you out of this sense of security after 11 years. Like, haha, plot twist.
But like, like Stab, and Scream 4 all look the same at the opening.
Yes.
We'll talk about that opening in a minute. So, Jessica, where were you at when Scream 4 happened? What was your thoughts?
I think I was just so terrified of it not being good that I didn't see it in the theater. I think I had stuff going on with college and work, so I might have used that as an excuse. But I did the same, where I was just so afraid that it was not going to be awesome. So when everybody said, it was great, then I would watch it, I think, when it came out. But somehow I avoided, spoilers weren't as bad then. You didn't just jump on
they
Twitter
were,
and everything wasn't like, hey, this person died.
Well,
this
the movie bombed, so it wasn't like it was the talk of town for
I mean, Donnie saw it. He was like, no, it's good. I was like, okay, I'll watch it. But I don't know. It's like this pedestal of, I'm afraid it's just going to crap all over childhood memories. And then, I don't want to upset the fandom here, but, whatever I am. But not toxic, of course. But
well, I would talk about.
I did watch it. I was like, holy crap! I could not figure out who it was going to be, and some things are obvious when. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I think I've only seen it one time before, until I rewatched it yesterday.
Wow.
So I still was like, wait, I don't remember who the second killer is.
Oh.
And even after I have seen it, I was like, I don't remember. I think it's this one or this one, but.
Well,
I couldn't remember Charlie.
This is a point with Scream 4 is a point where I learned, like, it was a weird spot for me with fandoms and stuff like that. Like, I'm a fan of things. Like, I'm a fan of Scream stuff, but like at this point, I'm more internet message board involved with like looking at things, chat with people, and like I'm starting to listen to podcasts in 2011, and I was listening to horror podcasts, and I'm hearing people like it's like the thoughts of like Scream fans were like, well, if the Scream 4, when it was talked about, like, well, if they kill Sydney, Doria, Gale, I'm out. This is bullshit. I'm like, wait, why would you like? This is a horror movie. Like, they should be up for grabs. Like, I know we have attachments to like character stuff, but like, what's the point of going to like a Scream movie and thinking, well, those three are safe? Like, like just unmask me at the beginning, let me know who it is, because that's
I
not
think that's
fun
like
to
what I
put
was
people in
afraid. I was
danger.
afraid
Like,
someone would die, and because they should have probably.
anytime you,
someone needs to eventually.
well,
But
anytime
still-
you bring it back, you're shaking up their world. You're making it awful for them. Like, that's what you get when you're a fan. Like, that's what, like, Star Wars. You realize Wars is in the title. So when you follow up Return of the Jedi, where it was all happy and you want to bring them back, we're not watching, like, Han and Leia plant a new garden and Luke goes and does a Jedi prayer. You shook up these people's life with a war. And, you know, things happen. Like, people don't understand, like, in order to make these movies again and what you like, you shake it up. Which I'll have more to talk about with the next one with stuff like that. But this one's hitting up in the remake era, but of course it's a killer. Like, I go into all these thinking this might be my last rodeo with Gale, Dewey, or Sydney, or, you know, Cotton. You know,
I had
everybody's
attachment issues,
favorite.
Brandon.
But
I wasn't
I
ready
do.
to deal with it. I had attachment issues during that time.
But I'm just saying that's where I was like sort of like separating myself from like what the fandom perceived wisdom or consensus is on things, and like my own, like I'm like, well, I'm a big fan. I consider myself a big fan of these things, but I don't think like that. But just kind of a weird place for me in mind. So Scream 4 has a lot of crap going on behind the scenes with this movie, that it's a bit of a rocky production in ways that, aside from Kevin Williamson bolting because he wanted it to end a certain way, they didn't like that, and there's multiple iterations of an ending before we get to the one we actually got. A lot of people walked from this movie. Lauren Graham was like famously cast in this movie as Jill's mom, and then like 2 days into production quit because of the rewrites and because of just not liking what they did with her character. I think Lauren Graham was probably going to be a killer, and she's like, "Fuck you, I'm not doing it." But I mean, like, maybe Jill and her mom were doing it or something. But I mean, it's really weird because, like, if you look at that role that Mary McDonnell's in, like, it's a weird, and she gives a weird fucking performance, and I just don't know what movie Mary McDonnell's in. Some of her lines, I feel like, okay, I could hear Lauren Graham saying that.
Yeah.
But like, she's relevant to 0 scenes in this movie. And I noticed that this time, she never shares a scene with her daughter. And when she is in frame with her, she's talking with Kirby, having a conversation. And the rest is all just being there to let Sydney not sit and talk in a room by herself. Like, it's pointless. And like, I have nothing, like, I don't even know that they're mother and daughter almost, aside from that they're in the house together. It's that character, oof, that suffered there. But it was supposed to be Lauren Graham. She walked. Lake Bell was supposed to play Deputy Judy. She quit 2 weeks into production, scheduling conflict, but I think she was another rewrites and I'm out person. So then came Marley Shelton in to replace her. Also, Adam Brody, it's kind of weird that he'd be in a role this insignificant and goofy at this time. And apparently he was at some stage possibly one of a killer, or there's going to be 3 or something. And that's why he's here. He stayed on. Good guy there. But yeah, there's just also Emma Roberts wasn't their first pick. It was Ashley Greene is who they went after and didn't take the role.
Oh, that would have been
From
good.
Twilights and stuff. Her height would have been better. For things,
Yeah.
her size would have worked better. But Hayden Panettiere almost walked with Lauren Graham, but stayed because Hayden Panettiere was not happy with her. Thank fucking Lord she stayed, because that's one of the bright parts of this movie. But But yeah, like there's a lot of this going on behind the scenes. Ending wise, the idea Kevin Williamson wanted originally, and through my notes and years, like he wanted Jill to get away with it, get what
Yeah.
she wanted, and the next movie go very Hitchcock, where somebody knows what she did and is coming after her and her new friends in fame.
I know you did in Scream 4.
Kind of, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Then so that's what he wanted. They didn't do, and then they did another ending where they left. And I'm surprised they don't include this on the damn disc or whatever because they shot it. Where she's getting loaded up in the ambulance and someone wants to take a picture, and she's like, "Okay," or whatever. And then someone comes running in saying, hey, we have one of them still alive. One of the female victims actually still alive. Da 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 da. And she's like, "Oh," and then it ends, and you don't know whether it's Kirby or Sydney. They left that ambiguous because Kirby wouldn't have known that Jill was involved, and if Nev Campbell doesn't want to come back for another one, then look, Kirby survived. But the next one in idea of Williamson or whatever would be that, and this is bad writing, that Sydney couldn't remember any of what happened in the kitchen, and the next but yeah, he was gonna kill Sydney. Jill was gonna carry through another movie being stalked. People haven't known what she did in the throne. But then the big hospital sequence at the end was a reshoot. That was not the original ending. It was
They
added.
didn't have enough extras for that scene, did they? To play doctors or nurses at all that would have worked in the hospital.
Exactly. If you notice, it's
Yeah.
There was a gunshot, and then I think nobody still showed up for a while, and it's like, dear, I mean, can we?
As we find out in the following film, there are floors of the hospital that are secret and private and can be written away like that. So yeah. So that's some of this, because this was also during a lot of the pre-production. Williamson's like, this is going to be the start of a new trilogy, just like, they said with every Terminator 3 we've had in the last 2 decades. But so that's kind of where they are with that. So Jessica, what are your overall thoughts here on the fourth Scream? Scriforum.
Now that I know that Jill, and it could have been Jill and her mom, I like that.
Yeah.
I wish they would have done that because it's like a dance mom's desperate for fame.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
That family.
Mm-hmm.
Like they really want the fame, and it would be both of them because I don't understand how if Jill wanted the attention, she would just resent Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Like why wouldn't she just try to be friends with her freaking cousin then, and then latch on to the fame? That was the easier route.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I'm so mad, I'm gonna kill because I don't care about friends or family. I need fans. That part was kind of weird, but I like that her and
ahead of its time.
Charlie.
Yep.
We all rolled our eyes at that shit in 2011, and now if you watch it, you're like, I can see it.
So good. It's like the most prescient movie that's been made in a very long time about the forthcoming wave of social media and vlogging and documenting your lives and everything that's happened. This movie predicted in a weird, twisted sort of way. And
but between Robbie and the motive for Jill, they had what was coming down when we were all like, that kid recording his whole, because at the time that kind of stuff, there was that Google Glass thing was, and everybody's like, that's so stupid. But when you just hold your phone up and go on Instagram Live and share all that, that's exactly what Robbie's doing in a beta form.
Yeah.
Yep.
Being on freaking Twitch all day doing stuff that's what he's doing. Hall pass.
Well, and then look at all the movies that have come out kind of in the past couple of years about live streaming murders, things. There's that one, the driving movie, the Uber driver who kills people, live streaming it or something. What's that movie called? Oh, you know it. I know you know it. Either way, but there's a lot of movies that are doing.
Well, there was an actual guy who went and killed people and live streamed it when those two that cameraman and that anchor reporter and that guy who had been fired from the network went out and Facebook lived it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was 7 years ago, was that or something? It was freaky. So
was Scream 4 to blame then? Did that plant the seed?
I don't
No,
know.
natural progression of generations, the internet and attention and validation through
Yeah.
likes and look at me. And
Yeah.
I think that was just the only thing. The motive was weak,
Oh.
but
Oh, I disagree.
I get it now. I just
Yeah.
my only problem with the that whole thing is there's no, and I watched this twice for this and looking for this. There's no hint that this is who Jill is at all in this movie. She's never on the social media. She never has her phone. Like, I don't sense that she wants this heightened sense of popularity at all. Like, I can get that she's cold and maybe not very attached to her friends that she has, but like this desire for fame and stuff, I don't see it at all through. Like, there's no hint of it.
like, how do you keep it bottled up even around your friends? Like, I was that friend that loved to get
Yeah.
attention, so I'd be obnoxious and stuff.
Like,
So I don't understand that part. Like, how do you hide it around everybody except for the guy that I don't know if she actually liked Charlie or if she's just using him because he pretty much
was
did
using
all
him.
the kills.
yeah, oh yeah, you totally using him, but him,
Set
like,
them up for the videos and the
yeah, he's weak sauce, like with it. Like, I'm just like, yeah,
Supposedly Trevor was supposed to be the other killer
Yeah.
too. It's supposed to be her
yeah.
and
They
Trevor.
talked him out of it during the script writing process because they were like, that's too much the same.
Yeah.
Which I do love. I will say in the finale that Trevor's dressed like Sydney's dad.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, and he's like gets tied up just like him. But yeah, the whole thing with them, and
I mean,
I
I enjoyed
have-
Jill, I guess. I forgot. I mean, I enjoy that she did it because once
Mhm.
Emma snaps, like, or cracks into, like, this is what it is, and blah, blah,
Well,
blah. I do love that.
I think
Yes.
I think
Like that
this
character.
is I am a fan of Emma Roberts. I like
Mhm.
watching her and things. I think she's not quite ready for this because she's really good at some of the when she's doing her reveal and talk about stuff. She's really good at some of the devious things, but anger and yelling not working for her.
She
Like,
mastered it in
she's
Scream Queens.
ooh.
I love Scream Queens that first season. She's talking really, really fast.
Yeah.
She's got that wit, that
But her
tongue. It's like,
yelling is really kind of I'm like,
"She's
oh
a
damn,
tiny little bird."
keep it down. And I will say I did when this movie was getting announced in the casting and they cast Rory Culkin, I'm like, I bet he's one of the fucking killers. And I was like, oh fuck. When the movie happened, I'm like, oh Jesus.
That's
'Cause I was
probably why
like-
Kevin walked. Kevin walked because he's like, we cannot make it McCulkin. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, no, because he just
That's
seemed
funny.
like he's a creepy looking guy and weird. But then, like, watching this movie, like, character-wise, I don't mind, but like physicality, like one of them needed to be somewhat like if it was Trevor, I buy him and Jill being the killers. But like these two are like, and then when we see the killer, it's like it's tall. I'm like, okay, Boots can do a little, but I don't know. It just that's a Scooby Dooing there, and I feel like this movie wants you so badly not to be able to guess the killer and surprise you by the end. It holds back a lot of clues, like because go back to like when we go back and watch Scream and Scream 2, and we're all like getting giddy about look at all these tells that were there with Mickey and Billy and Stu, and we're watching that video like it's all there. There's like none of that here. Like there is a
Well-
little with Rory Culkin's character, and they cut one of the coolest things is there was a scene with him, the kids talking outside the school because you have to have the kids talking by the fountain scenes. They cut it from this one, and like someone said something about this isn't a movie, and he goes, "It will be," and then when Sydney's talking on the phone or someone's talking on the phone, the killer says, this isn't a fucking movie. He goes, "It will be," and that was supposed to be one of your tells. They cut it. They cut it with that. But like with him, I'm just like, who? Like, I don't know. He just looks creepy. That's about all I'm
But they
given.
did the fake out pretty well with Kirby and like Sydney, can you trust him? And then like that little setup. I mean, they
Mhm.
did that pretty well, and
No,
I
it's
felt
clever. It's clever. Yeah.
clever. But I will say with Jill, upon rewatching this movie so many times,
Yeah.
they're building up this movie as like, okay, like a reboot, and you have your new generation coming in, and Jill is your new like kind of ingenue and doing all that. but what you realize, it's very nuanced in its filming and its direction because the camera never lingers on her. She's always
Mm-hmm.
brought in and brought out, and
Yep.
you get everybody's emotional weight of like all the secondary, like of all the other characters, and not her. And if
Mhm.
it were truly her as the victim, like the one you're supposed to sympathize with, she would have had those isolated moments. But instead, the camera lingers on Sydney, camera lingers on Kirby, the camera lingers on whoever, on Trevor even.
Mhm.
She's always exiting. So if you watch it, you're like, why aren't we like connecting with her more? And it's because she's the killer.
Yeah.
So I think it was very smart the way they did it, because the movie actually never makes her seem like the final girl, but you're just
Well, I think
by who she is, she's supposed to be, in a sense.
yeah, some of that too is this movie's never fully able or doesn't want to hand off the keys to another generation. Like it that's why I have a hard time getting into a lot of these new teen characters. They I do, having watched it more than once, but originally like it it has this battle of like, well, I like my older people and all this, and it's like it's afraid to just like hand it off and like maybe lighten the load for some of the other characters. But I do like, after having seen the movie, I didn't like him the first time I watched it, but Trevor's become one of my favorite characters because he cracks me up in this movie.
Okay.
Like
Just the innocent idiot.
he's like this like dorky Peter Fasinelli type that he's going
Yeah.
in, and like the part like when he's like interrupts Kirby and Charlie on the couch, and he's like, "Were you guys do? Oh, shut the fuck up!" I'm like, he's just that douche guy. Like I just love his douchiness, and he's so silly. And like when he comes in knowing he's not the killer, he's just like an idiot that has this dark mystique accidentally. Like it cracks me up. I do enjoy Trevor a lot more through my rewatches than I did my first time through.
I guess
But
the only thing with Jill is like she when it did show her, it was usually about her avoiding Trevor and so upset about Trevor. But she has this like grudge against Trevor because he cheated on her, and that's why she got Charlie to kill the girl that he cheated on her with, and it's like maybe this there's crazy girls and you can be upset about somebody cheating, like who hasn't, right? But not enough to be like, all right, let's do some murders. And I'm gonna frame you in the process, because why not?
Well, it'd be one thing too if they kind of showed us at school, like Jill seems like this quiet loner at school, but if she was like this popular girl that the nerd guy sought out and would do anything for, I can see Charlie being like, "Yeah, I'll kill for you." Like,
Yeah.
I feel like
That's
Charlie
like
maybe had a
Prescott's
chance.
cousin, right?
Yeah, I
'Cause
feel
he's
like
a
Charlie
cinephile.
maybe had a chance regardless. Like I feel like Charlie might have had a chance with her. But the one thing with Alpha with the teens too is they're all like, every time she's there, and it's not her fault, she's great, is they get upstaged by Hayden Panettiere every time she's on screen because
Yeah.
she's incredible in this movie. Like it's it could have, it's not like a throwaway part, but man, she makes it even better than ever. And of course there's the iconic rambles off every horror remake of the decade scene, and there's like, just a lot of other things, but there's like when she like leans over and they're watching the movie, it's like, "Hey Charlie," and her face is just like, is incredible there. And just she knows how to play this, and there's no wonder she's so popular. And I want to say it's more than the character, it's her performance than it is anything. And that's why they're bringing her back. Like she's popular because she gave a hell of a, and at this point, like we'd seen her in Heroes, she'd been around, but this is like her aces performance, that I would say.
Well, no, she was in Nashville at the time. That
Oh, and
TV show.
was she had
And
that
that
started?
show was brilliant. I
Yeah.
think that Nashville had already started. Nashville is such a brilliant show, and I love her in that. And she sings. She's one of the few child stars who actually managed to like stay sane and like consistent and healthy, I feel like.
Yeah, well, I think because Nashville was 2012, so she was just starting to film it.
Okay.
Hayden, from what I've gathered, she doesn't live. She's like the Jason Segel lifestyle or something, where she doesn't live in Hollywood or something, and she doesn't like hit up all these like popular things. They had like they wanted to bring her back for the 5th one, and they couldn't find her till it was too late, and they could only do some voice dubs for Easter eggs. And that was the thing. She doesn't have traditional methods. She's kind of to herself and, sane, I guess. But that's like,
to her.
yeah. But yeah, she's great here. I like Marley Shelton here. I know Lake Bell would have been great too, but Marley Shelton's just because the first time you watch it, you're like, this is funny and this.
That stairway scene. Like,
that's why. Okay, we've
so
crapped
bizarre.
we've crapped on the cinematography, but there it's great.
Yes,
right there it's great.
Yeah, it's dark and it's like in the shadows, and she's coming out, and you learn that Sydney played Tiger Lily in like Peter Pan. You're like,
this is from the drop material from Emily Mortimer in the 3rd one.
Yeah,
is what was part of who she was, so they added that here. This is also Kevin Williamson's part of like the world affected by the Stab movies type thing, where these kids in their hometown with this massacre still have a movie marathon every year to showcase these Stab movies, which are this, like I said, like it's always the second movie that establishes like a running theme throughout these, and it's the Stab movies for Scream. There's Stab is a big part of Scream 2. Stab is part of Scream 2. Stab is big part of Scream 3. It's a big part of Scream 4, and it'll be a part of the next one too. Which, let's go to the opening sequence of this. The cheeky movie within a movie within a movie deal, with plenty of cameos, some still memorable people, and some maybe you don't remember them now, of popularities. Here's where I have some issues with the writing of the movie here with this one. And it's because the opening where it like with all of them that we have through Stab, was it 6, 7, and then Scream 4, where we enter, but it's it makes this grave mistake where the original Scream talked about horror movies, did this stuff out of a passion and love for horror and respect and stuff. This opening scene fucking hates horror movies of this time. And it's basically like, horror movies haven't been good since Scream was there. And just rather than play into what horror is now and what horror has become, and these kids would like these movies. These would be their new horror movies that they go to see and become fans of horror movies for. And then they go to make a movie that's kind of inferior to a lot of those movies they trash. So that bugs me, because I'm like, that's not what Scream was. Scream should be like, okay, well, Saw is popular now. What do we comment, and how do we have a killer that's seen those movies and does that? Not taken for the whole movie, but how do we incorporate what it is with us now? Instead, they're just like to it all. Like, that's kind of bummed me out there with that opening.
Or they'll honor them with like movie posters in the background, and they'll just mention, got to mention the movie Psycho somewhere, or have a nod.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if they actually do. They hate all the new movies, or do they just hate everything that isn't Scream?
It just sounds like, well, since Scream stopped, horror has been awful. That's what it comes off as.
I guess. I mean, I don't know, but like Olivia's death is really brutal, and the way they like staged the scene on that one, that's like something out of Hostel or Saw. Let's be real.
Oh, with the garage door?
No,
or, wait, Olivia. In this movie. Yeah, no, this movie does ramp up and fit.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, the movie itself, I think, does play into
it's gory.
More gory of the times. So I know you're referencing like the opening kind of like shitting on horror, but I think the movie does try to at least like acknowledge that in its own way, because Olivia's death is actually up there and one of my favorites in this series. Not my favorite, obviously, but like it's up there. It's high up there in all the kills that have happened in this series.
I do like that Ghostface is actually whispering on the phone when he's talking to them.
Yep.
That's pretty close. I was like, I noticed that. I was like, oh, okay, that's good. You buy that.
Yeah. They do. There is a sense of awareness
Mhm.
to things that they do in this movie that I appreciate. But like as for the opening, I think it's just kind of. I mean, I don't fully understand the Kristen Bell and a Paquin opening.
Mm.
Like just that you talk too much and
I
like the
think
stat.
it's
It's
because they were
funny.
available. I
Yeah,
bet that's what it was.
it's funny and it's interesting, but for me, it makes me curious about what. Wait, so that one was Stab 7.
Yep.
So like Kristen Bell and Anna Paquin's opening was the opening of Stab 7. So I really want to know what Stab really about because that means in the opening you find out that one of the killers is Kristen Bell, or is that just like, or is like I'm so confused about like what Ghostface would be in Stab 7.
Two rando girls are watching the previous movie, the full scene, and then one stabs the other and eats popcorn, and then we go to Amy Teagarden, which this sequence with her, she was on Friday Night Lights. That's why she was. And the first one had Shanae Grimes and Lucy Hale. Shanae Grimes was in 90210. Lucy Hale, popular for, what was she popular for?
Pretty Little Liars.
Pretty Little Liars. And the Amy Teagarden one with that other girl, I don't know where she's from, but that was reshot.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they originally, she played a joke on her with the calling her on the phone, and then heard the and went downstairs, and she was playing a joke on her, and then they're talking like, "Fine, I'll watch a horror movie with you," and she does the fridge close, and Ghostface is standing behind her couch. She's like, "Okay, assholes," da da da, and then he goes over and stabs her, and she thinks she's joking, and then she's really bloody, and then Ghostface walks up, slices her, and she's like, "Oh," and then stabs her. So the other one died first, and the thing, but then they went and reshot the sequence with the garage door, which is a response to people's complaints of Scream 1, showing that this is how a garage door works and doing that, which is pretty brutal in itself. But I don't, of the 4 we've had opening sequences, this is my least liked one, I think.
Because it's just too it's long though. It's an 11-minute
long.
opening.
The new stuff it adds isn't really all that great. Like,
No, I don't know what it really does because it just makes me wonder what the stab movies actually are about. But yeah, I didn't think there was anything that exciting about the proper deaths in the opening scene
Yeah.
since there's so many. I wasn't really left with any real feeling after they died. I mean, I guess I liked the, well, I'm also still confused by the garage door closing because garage doors, I know if there's something blocking it, it wouldn't keep shutting. Like there's
Right.
sensors there.
The sensor
So I
tells it
don't.
not to keep going down.
Yeah.
It's like, go back up.
So I'm just kind of confused. Did he get rid of the sensor, or like how did he like manage to, because if you have somebody in the sensor, you could keep pushing that button and it's not gonna budge. So I'm a little confused. Like I get what the intent was, I just don't fully understand the practical nature of how she got crushed by the garage door. Yeah, I don't fully
Unless
get
he
that
turned
one
off
yet.
the whatever it is you have to do, the auto, you turn off the manual, but he wasn't necessarily right there by the door.
Well, if you put
that, like,
if
it'll just drop on you, but
and if the sensors are off balance, it stays up. It won't come down.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, they put so many like fail safes on garage doors to avoid that from happening.
Right.
But
thanks,
so
Yeah.
I almost accept Tatum dying in the dog door and it lifting up than I do the garage door crushing down.
Well, at least that one's going for it and being silly as shit. So
they
there you
double
go.
down. They're like, nope, it's happening.
There you go.
Yeah, but I'm not mad at it. I still have fun with it. I watch it. I laugh.
Yeah.
I still get caught off guard when Pretty Little Liars girl. Why am I forgetting her name? I really like
Lucy Hale?
Lucy Hale. I still like get startled when she opens a door and he's kind of flipping about and then he just stabs her neck really abruptly. Like there's something about movies or just kills in general when they are so sudden and not drawn out that actually are more terrifying. I feel like sometimes in movies when they get drawn out unnecessarily, you just kind of go like, would this really happen? Like just kill people already. Like who has time for this?
But Greg, we love Terrifier 2. Come on now.
Oh yeah, I do love Terrifier 2.
I love Terrifier. Have you seen Terrifier 2, Jessica?
Nope.
Oh, that'll be a retrospective.
Oh man, that is That is a movie. That is a miniseries.
It is
It's a
an
movie.
Oh,
it is
no.
a it is an epic. It is a 2.5 hour slasher. It was a 2 hour, what, how 40, right?
Yeah, it's
240.
long.
It's a slash, and so are the deaths. It's
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
I still don't fully understand the end of that, but like the end
okay,
of
but
Terrifier is
yeah,
still like,
we are at Scream
yeah, we're not there.
Forum. We're
But
Scream Forum.
He
so
must have been explaining
this-
his motive to every person, right? The whole time.
Oh
That's
no,
the
he's
only time
silent.
he
He's a
can drag it
mime.
out.
He's
Oh,
silent.
He's a mime. He's a mime.
and yet you're still
Shut
terrified.
up.
You're
He's-
still terrified and entertained.
Yeah.
It's brutal. But anyway, in this one, I liked Lucy Hale getting just the next life really
Yeah.
quickly. Like, I was like, that actually freaks me out a lot.
Mhm.
Like opening a door, I'm like, oh, like that startled me. I think that was almost a more effective kill than the two girls who properly died in the movie.
Yeah. Well, their scene is short and dumb, but
To Scream 5. Um,
I
yeah,
mean, their scene's short and dumb, but it also introduces like catfishing as a
yeah.
thing a killer can do briefly.
Phoning your
Like,
phones.
yeah,
Ooh.
introduces that real quick. It's just too fast. That's about it with that one. So like that's why I'm like something's up with this, but I think it kind of everybody knew before going to this movie what that opening was going to be. Like I don't think that was a big surprise. I think everybody word had got out that the opening was like this meta thing with that, like fake outs. I think that had gotten out before the movie.
Were there
out.
other intros before, like that they had to rewrite, or
No, they just reshot the kill scene because test audience said that was boring, or it wasn't eventful.
Interesting, but I
this
mean,
is-
I'm not mad at it. I'm
No,
not mad.
this is the first one with the CG knife, so there was no blade. In
Oh,
any of the
yeah.
scenes. Yeah. The knife's entirely CG, and there was a costume controversy, but there was I remember a leaked image of a ghost face with a scarecrow-like costume. The mask was kind of light beigey, and it was like a scarecrow thing, and people were flipping the fuck out, like, oh, how can they do? Oh, look at they're doing Scream 4. It ended up being it was a promotional image from a costume company that was doing a variant on things.
Oh.
Because they'll do that. And so that's what it was. And people are flipping out that they changed the Ghostface outfit. But no, that was not the case.
Interesting.
But yeah, see other things from this one. Oh yeah. The main three characters we have Dewey and Gail married. Gail moving back, or did she ever from Woodsboro actually? Like
No.
this is her first time living there. And her life is like gone or like it's and
she's trying to find a purpose.
and I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, of all the characters through Scream, Gail actually probably has the most arc or most interesting character development through all of them. Like it's really interesting to watch her develop and be in the places she is. Like she's trying to get it back with like, oh, the mystery's back in town and I'm going to be on it, and she can't be on it. That's the kind of the fun thing with that.
Yeah, but that makes me so mad at Dewey. He's never really been a jerk, but now that he's like, well, kind of in 3 when he's a whatever bodyguard or helper, but like
When I
Oakland, he's
wear
like,
this uniform, you treat me like a man of the law. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's the guy she married. That's the guy she married.
Who
And then
never
he's
brings up his sister
No.
ever, except later there's a box, cool. But like I felt like it was so rude when she's like, dude, I've helped solve all these, but he's like, sorry, Judy's here with her lemon squares. We can't do this. And I
What?
was like, what the heck, do?
I love that the sheriff department is all Deweys. Like that's that's
Yeah.
pretty funny. It's like a Dewey squad. But so Dewey's now back where he wants to be, and he's got charge. He's got his respect and everything that's going on. I do like there's some mishaps with him where he's like, what do you mean it's on the internet? Oh, like it is. Sydney extending, like embracing her suffrage with the book, becoming
Yep.
Gail herself, sort of, and traveling back to Woodsboro, which they cut a line where Dewey said she hasn't been back here since her father died, so he is not a suspect in this one.
Mm.
So
Oh, that's good.
even though
I mean,
Trevor picked up his clothes at the Goodwill in town.
Um, I think they did a really good job reestablishing the characters, and the overall sense of story is pretty solid. Like I believe that we saw Sydney kind of go into hiding for three and then come out the other
Mhm.
side and leave the door open and realize like I need to take control of my life again. It's been all these years later. I think it's realistic that she wrote the book. I don't think that's out of character. I know people said that back in the day when this came out. They're like,
No
"Oh,
way.
she wouldn't have done that." I'm like, yes, she would have. You could only for so long, like go into hiding. Like Sydney's stronger than that. Writing a book is a reasonable thing to do. I liked her PR person or whatever.
Oh,
Who
Alison Brie. We haven't talked about
yeah,
Alison Brie. This
yeah,
is
I loved her
she's
because
Gail Weathers.
yeah, she's believable and she's real. Like I just think when they find out that there's the murder that's happening, she's like, score, like payday. This couldn't have been better.
She's what everybody thinks treats Gail Weathers as in the other movies. Like, oh, I bet
Yeah.
you'd like that, wouldn't you, Gail? That's what Alison Brie is. She's the
Yep.
epitome, the creation of that.
And I love it. Like I love that because it's true. But like also I do believe that Sydney would go back to Woodsboro to do the book tour and all that
Oh yeah.
because like look at how far she came. Like
Mhm.
there's nothing out of the ordinary within reason that this movie doesn't establish. I still now the more I think about it that we talked about in I don't know if it was 2 or 3 at this point, but I still don't know how how the stab movies got away with using their real names, all the characters' real names. I
Oh.
will not that I can't accept anymore.
We find out Stab was directed by Robert Rodriguez in this one, which he actually directed that scene from Stab that they used in Scream 2. So we have found he is the director of Stab in this movie.
Oh, that's hilarious. But how did they get the rights to the names? Like, what I want is a movie of all the lawyers for like everybody's characters and like all the discussions going on behind the scenes too of like what made this possible. But so Sydney going back for the book tour makes complete sense. That triggering Jill into like the whole
Well,
kill spree thing makes sense. Like this movie actually of all the movies is quite logical and practical and sensible in its own right. May not be executed that way, but in theory, you break it down and you're like, oh, it works. If that makes sense.
it's decent. Yeah, it does. Like when you pinpoint who's where. It's not about the who's where. It's about like could she have physically manhandled that or him. He doesn't look
Thank
like
God
he's
for
lifted.
again the YouTubers that have to explain it because I'm like, whoa, how did he get there to there? He's like,
No,
time traveling.
they
I tell him-
actually it
it's
maps
like, oh,
out pretty
It
good.
does, and I had to
Yeah.
have someone explain it to me though, because when you're watching, you kind of forget and you're trying to pay attention. You're like, wait, is she actually there? Is she not there?
The
Did she
one
go
thing
there? Was it someone else?
Well, the
Ugh.
one thing that is like, how did she know that Gail was stabbed? Like, she did not run out to the barn and do that, but it's like, no, she was running the camera that was at the barn and watched it there.
Yeah.
That's how she saw. That's how she knew. But
Yeah, I think this movie was pretty thorough, at least compared to the other movies, in trying to keep that consistency and that flow and that rhythm going,
mhm.
where it's not too suspension of disbelief.
I think
compared to
it's
the-
to the benefit that I feel like this movie also like it knew who its killers were for a longer time in production than some of the
Yeah.
others. That probably that helps, with this one and the next one a bit. But there the one thing with me with this too, and I've told Greg this before, but now we have a recording saying this is where it gets me is I am with this movie a lot of the way until the barn scene. Until Gail goes to the barn and then she doesn't die, which I love Gail Weathers or whatever. But then right when I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, Sydney, Gail, and Dewey are making it out of this. They're not going to kill anybody. Like, everybody's safe. Dewey's like the safest he's ever been in a movie. Gets whacked with a bedpan in the head. But I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's one of the kids and our three are going to make it out of here because that would have been a point of that would have been a Randy moment. It would have been a perfect moment of like, oh fuck, and it would have been, Gail's arc would have been had some sort of fulfillment in the end of like, oh, she, taking her back to this guy, she lives, and I'm, glad to see her in the next Scream 2, the next one too, but like that's the moment where you push yourself and elevate yourself up, but it doesn't want to do that.
But I like that Gail survived just so she could say, "Oh hell no, I'm not writing a book and putting her name in it. I'm not giving her the credit because that's all
That's
she wants
good.
fame. I'm not giving it to her."
She does have a
Like, yeah.
awful line with
Or
bad
wait, is that in
delivery.
another movie? Is that in this movie?
That
No, that's at
yeah,
5.
That's at 5.
Oh, well,
Oh yeah.
you know. She's not thinking it in this one, but she's in the hospital.
They cut a scene where she's talking about a book with Sydney about who's going to write it. But this when she's leaving and tells Dewey this time he's making the movie. I'm like, got it. Like, no. They should have just dropped it. Like, poor Courtney Cox. Like no. I don't know.
I'm still surprised after rewatching it that Gail didn't die in the barn.
Right.
Because I don't really understand how she got away easily. But then at the same time, though, that would have been Charlie taking her down. And honestly, like Gail could crush Charlie.
All of them. Everybody could crush any of them.
Yeah, but I mean, but even being like caught off guard, like, I mean, that's the thing. Killers get away with it. You make stupid choices when you're like being threatened sometimes because you're not thinking clearly because one person is a sociopath who doesn't care about consequences and the other person's trying to survive. So like, even if the person's less frantic or even if the killer is less strong or whatever you want to say, they can probably pull off more because the other person's frantic energy of survival makes them not think as clearly or makes them maybe impulsively do stuff. So I'm a little bit more forgiving on that, even if the killer I don't think is capable, because like it doesn't matter if somebody is like anybody waving a knife at you, if you know they're not afraid to use it, you're not going to be, even if you could take them, your immediate thought isn't like, oh, let's just go towards the knife. Like, so
Gail and Sydney have muscle memory at this point. They're like, okay,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
comes at me, I do this happens.
Well, I've been stabbed there before.
Like,
yeah,
okay,
but it's just, how did he miss her? Like, or like, it's like he was deliberately not trying to kill her because he stabs her like in the shoulder, like right here. Like, there's no reason he couldn't have gotten her in the chest.
Are they hoping Gail writes the book on it?
That's what I'm wondering. I don't get why he missed stabbing her more aggressively when he had the opportunity, if he really wanted to, or I don't know. I was confused by that. And honestly, after rewatching 4, I always forget that she did get attacked in 4 every time. And then after she gets attacked, and then at the end of the movie, I actually had to look up like 30 minutes after watching Scream 4 for the 10th time, going, wait, Gail did not get hurt in Scream 4, did she? Like, I actually still look it up and go, oh yeah, the barn, she got stabbed. I forget, it's so forced.
And she gets to wear a ghost face mask.
That was funny.
And do that awkward, like, I'm one of the cool kids.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Well, and if she would have got killed during the movie, it'd have been like a slight homage to Scream 2, where Jada Pinkett's getting killed watching this opening scene from Stab.
Yeah.
With that.
He had to have missed on purpose, but she had to be a part of the story. That way she would want to write about it or tell the story to make sure it gets out there publicity wise, because Emma Roberts wasn't upset, or Jill wasn't upset that, how's your wife? Is she doing okay? So it's like they didn't even go after really Dewey or her. It wasn't about them. It was more just maybe Sydney, and they're making their own movie. So and then Trevor, the cheating boyfriend.
See, that is what I mean, that line about like, I don't want friends, I want fans, or like, I don't need friends, I need fans. That line is brilliant, especially to today's standards. But at the same time, though, was she doing it for fame or did she want Sydney's life? And that goes to the point that you made earlier about her not feeling like she wanted fame or attention. Felt like she wanted sympathy. And not necessarily like fame. She wanted, so by not going after Gail or Dewey deliberately or intentionally, it's almost like she wanted to fill in Sydney's place and have Dewey as like the doting, dumb, like deputy on her side, and Gail being the one who wants to write about her and honor her. And like she wants to replace Sydney rather than get fans. So I guess in that respect, the movie works, but then that line that I love doesn't work. So I don't know if the movie really made up its mind if she wanted to be Sydney for the attention that she can get with relationships and bonds and that kind of energy of it, or if she really wanted the fanfare, because you notice that Sydney never really wanted fanfare ever
No, ever.
either. So that's what's kind of confusing, I guess. I don't know if Emma Roberts really knew what she was getting into, or herself knowing what exactly she wanted. She just loved that. I think she saw Sydney and everybody clamoring to be around Sydney, and Sydney being the one that everybody talked about, and Sydney being the one everybody protected. And Emma and Jill wanted that, I think, more than just anonymous people being like, "How brave are you?"
Right. But every time a stab movie would come out, everyone brings up Sydney in the original story again. So it's probably
Yeah.
like, I want to be infamous and like,
Yeah,
talk about me forever. Now I'm the new hero.
exactly. So I guess I guess part of it would be not only I think if Dewey and Gale died under her reign as Ghostface, it would have been counter to her, like to her plan of having fans, I think, because that would have made Dewey and Gale more significant than Jill surviving, I think. I think people would be more like that round of murders. I think people would have been more concerned and sad that like Sydney, Dewey, and Gale all died. And Jill was a survivor. Nobody would care about that. They would care about the three people who died more than Jill. So I think by just killing Sydney and not threatening Dewey and Gale, she now becomes the new trio.
Because Sydney's the only
Then
one that could overshadow her, right? Like,
yeah,
for
but
sure.
like I think Sydney's death, people will be like, "Oh, that's really sad," but like her cousin went through it all, and then Gail and Dewey were there by her side, and then people would talk to Gail about Jill now, and I think that's more like I think the triangle is what the strongest symbol. So I think she had it like she could fill in the triangle rather than kill the other two and be the sole survivor.
But also, if you think about it, like Jill's what, 17? Is that what we're supposed to?
Yeah.
She'd have been like what, 1 or 2 when the original events happened to Sydney and everything. So it's like, how did she grow up? Like a lot of it's past by that time.
Where's her dad at? Did it say?
No, we barely know anything about.
And she's like, gosh, even my mom had to die. It's like, you don't even care about that. You're crazy.
See, I could see the thing is, if it was her and her mom, I could totally buy that because the mom's grown up through all that and grooming her daughter with this stuff, and she's I missed my boat, but here we are with this. That'd have been something wicked there, but it's not.
Man, and we've never had we haven't had like a mom and kid killer duo. You know what I mean? Just
they did it in separate movies,
and then found a kid to help.
But yeah, no, I just kind of I was like, it's seriously, but like, so I've come to this odd spot with this movie where upon release I was amused but like ultimately kind of disappointed, but every time I've returned to it I've enjoyed it a little more, and I'm now in this place where I don't think it's nearly as bad as it was like dismissed when it came out to be, but I also don't think it's this like great overlooked, it was good actually gem that Twitter likes to boast of it all. And like, I do think an apology is due for the motive actually panning out in real life, and it was laughed off the face of this earth in 2011. But I think it's kind of imperfect and mishandled in some areas, but I have no problems popping it in and watching it. Like I like it more than I think I like Scream 3. I'd probably put it above there, but like I don't know. I enjoy it more every time I go back to it. Though I do have some like issues with it, but I can still have some fun with it. I do think it's not like the characters are kind of fun, but they're not as bubbly and boppy as some of the previous movies. They're a little bit straight and like kind of like just kind of a little too flatlined with it. Hayden Panettiere's not even like a funny one. She's just enjoyable as a presence to watch.
Whatever her energy is, whether it be,
it's great. Like you would never expect. Like, it feel like Hayden Panettiere. She's at the time for her like doing a Scream movie with like, I could see it as like, oh, she's doing one of those now. She has to do one of those, but like, she brings it all, and hearing how that she was actually unhappy with things does not come across at all. It feels like
Maybe
I'm
that
bringing
should
my
put it in her
A game.
character. Then it
Yeah,
helps.
bringing my A game with it.
Gosh, even Charlie's character I didn't care about until the end. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, they're the wannabe Randys, like doing the cinema club. We're supposed to love them, and they're helping Gail and Sydney by telling them basically what he's doing or what they're doing.
Charlie almost feels like a choice of thank God it's not Trevor, because Trevor seems so obvious.
Yeah.
He's like so pointed at, but the kind of the brilliance in the pointing at is that because that's what Charlie and Jill are trying to do. They're trying to make it so they're pulling one on the audience too, with Trevor. But
It's going to be just whatever you think it was based off the original. We're going to do the opposite. So if you think it ends at the party, it doesn't end at the party. If you think
And the
it's
person-
boyfriend, it's not the boyfriend.
Sydney gets stabbed coming out with the ghost face coming out of the closet rather than Billy. There's a lot of like Sydney's the bandage or the duct tape guy up gets shot and killed. Sydney's dad lived. There's a lot of different places. There's somewhere they apparently they cut the scene where the girl Olivia, when she gets killed in the window, was supposed to resemble Tatum being hung in the garage door. I'm like,
That's what I thought about.
Scratching it, but
I immediately thought of
well-
Tatum, and then oh my gosh, at the barn party though, where people like have the Casey girl strung up, and then they have the whatever her name. See, I can't remember the characters' names. They meant nothing to me. Isn't that terrible? But she's hanging out the window, and they're like, "Yay!" Or maybe it's supposed to be Tatum in the garage.
These are
and
people
it's like,
from our
"Ah!"
town that were murdered.
Like,
Here we
yay!
go.
I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine that part. It's like, what the heck? This is nuts. It's okay if you want to dress up like the characters in the movie, but like, you're celebrating their deaths. Like,
Look at me.
Well-
I'm Billy Loomis. His relatives probably still live here. They do. But
Yeah. But that's the thing about this movie, which is interesting because in real life, there are those serial killer super fans who do
Yeah.
throw parties like that, but they're more underground. And like the Scream movie makes it seem like it's mainstream culture to celebrate it more so,
Mhm.
like high school, but like it would be a very niche group doing like a stabathon in real life. Like I'm sure there are people who are Dahmer fans who are like,
we make
"New Dahmer show."
we made
Like,
Dahmer
ooh.
jokes in the 90s when it was happening. We made Dahmer jokes.
Yeah.
Like,
And there was songs that references like like eating people like in pop songs.
mhm.
So I believe it, but it's just I again still don't understand how they got away with using real people's names. Like the older I get,
well,
the more
it's a
like,
news story, so those names are going to be in the news. So why you hiding it and there was in the book. So Gail used
but
the
in
real
real
names
life,
in the book.
but in real life, like we're in our lives right now, you
Mhm.
don't really see like you always watch shows and movies going like the names of the characters have been changed.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Blah. So it just seems like I feel like especially Gail Weathers, who is probably a very litigious person who goes after everything. I'm sure when they said they're making this a movie and they're like, damn right, they better not use my name, and then they use it. I can't imagine her not getting a team of lawyers on that to like, I don't know. I just
don't
feel
they
like,
reference that at the opening of this movie? Is it the Anna
Do they?
Paquin one when they're like, oh, they stopped using Sidney Prescott
After
because
the
she
third one.
threatened because she threatened to sue them if blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Probably because someone else brought this up. Like, you can't keep using all their names. Real
yeah,
people, especially
And
if we're
making
gonna
them
start
do
changing
things
the
they didn't
story.
do. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's making them do things they didn't do. But then does that mean if they keep, which we're not there yet, but then I guess if like they really can use the names if it's related to real events, then that would motivate people to keep doing it. So
Yeah.
that they can use the real characters' names, which is weird. But either way, I've accepted that their real names are in the Stab movies because
Yeah.
for some reason Gail, Dewey, and Sydney don't seem to be overly bothered by it. Like they are, but they've just kind of just shrugged about it and just accepted it as the reality. Because in Scream 3, they were literally on the film set reliving their lives and didn't really make more of a fuss then. So why all these years later would they do that?
When Gail wrote her book, did she change the names? Because did she call it off, Sheriff Dewey or whatever? Did she use Dewey's real name, or did she change
Oh,
it
I
to
think she
something
did.
else? And then
Mhm.
she referenced like a Barney Fife thing. So if she changed the name in the books, then the movies would have to follow the
Ah.
books. based
Yeah.
off of real life. So then they definitely couldn't have used real names. because they're
Main
based
thing
off of-
is, it makes it easier for us to correlate.
Absolutely.
That's
Well,
really
yeah, no, I
it.
get why they
And-
did it. It just but again, the disparity there is more of the fame that Sidney Prescott is getting in the real Scream world
Mhm.
wouldn't be the case because by this point in time, the stab movies, had they done like the actual way it would have been done under different names,
Mhm.
you wouldn't know who the real person was unless you did some digging. Like Sydney's name wouldn't be at the forefront of everything globally if the movies were done under different names. So within
Right.
that world, I don't think Sydney would be as famous as she would have been. Although, I don't know. It's hard to say. I
Did
don't
they
know.
make
It's like
proceeds? Like, did they
yeah,
get? Did they?
yeah, do they get I feel like they would need to get money off these movies. What if we find out in like Scream 7 or something that this entire time like the Stab franchise has been like secretly like giving them like cutbacks or like paychecks from all these movies over the years, and like Sydney and Gail are like unbelievably wealthy but hiding it because they
Right.
made so much secret money off the Stab movies that you don't know about. Oh, that would be a plot twist.
Well, speaking of making the money, this movie did not. It is the lowest grossing Scream of all time. It made 38 million domestic and 58.9 international for a 97 million worldwide haul.
Wow.
On a 40 million budget. Not good. It got whooped opening weekend by Rio. We're still talking about Scream 4 though, so I don't hear many people talking about Rio, even though that movie got a sequel. It's a kids movie. It was between it was sandwiched between Rio and another kids movie. Hop was the number 3 movie that weekend that opened up. And so Scream 3 and that like tanked hopes for another one when that happened.
Why do you think it tanked? Do you think a lot of people are just waiting for people to go the first weekend and get feedback from others? I mean, I know my reason, which was just
I
easy to
don't
avoid.
I don't think
That time.
interest was high, maybe, but also it's coming in the end where we are just a year off from the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, which just was like, okay, stop with these.
Oh,
So
that was rough.
that movie, I've never seen a movie hit hard opening weekend and drop like a fucking fly the next. Like it sank. Like that movie did abysmal business and it killed because there was supposed to be another Friday the 13th from Platinum Dudes and they canceled that after the box office of Nightmare on Elm Street. They were like, nope, time to pull out on these things. And I think Scream just came at the bitter end of everybody's kind of had it with these and looking for something new. And this is also when like Insidious is starting to rise and other things are, we're starting to see a shift in the horror landscape here as it heads into the 10s, which was a largely financially and critically successful decade for horror. Whereas the OOs were not, but I mean, they still made money and stuff, but Saw's done right here. Paranormal Activities in there with those are your like big earners and stuff at the time. The
Hostel.
Hostile J horror scene is gone by this time. Like
Yeah.
and I just think it hit in this middle ground between the shift from one decade to the next, and it didn't have good reviews. That probably didn't help.
Do you think the younger generation? Oh, I can't believe I'm saying this. What is it, Gen Z, whatever's after
Z.
millennial? Were they like,
Gen
oh,
Z.
that's like an old horror film franchise? I don't care, or are they still
No,
like
they were
remakes?
They were going to Halloween. They were going to Friday the 13th. They were going to My Bloody like those movies were making bank. The Scream just, I don't know. I don't know what people thought. It just didn't have good buzz around it when it came out, and it
Which is
opened.
weird.
Yeah, it opened really low. Granted, a Scream movie like the new one is projected to open at 37 million, which is going to be the highest opening for Scream. Doesn't open huge. It did back in the day. Its numbers were, but like I don't know what it was with Scream 4, but it didn't pick up. And I think a lot of Scream 4's biggest fans weren't old enough to go see it yet. And then the years past, it Scream 4 gained a following on Twitter pretty good, and a lot of them put their money where their mouth was because it was unsure whether they made a fifth one because a new studio picks it up. They're gonna make one, and it was a risk. Scream 5 was a risk, and it paid off because okay, I guess people really did like, still like Scream after the fourth one, because after this, Scream goes into television. We have 3 seasons of a TV show, which was not that bad. I'll tell
It
you that.
wasn't bad. I just
Wasn't bad.
hated the mask.
Yeah, they
I
changed the
hated the
mask.
mask.
They changed it. They didn't go with Ghost.
Why?
Season 3 went with
Until season
Ghostface.
3.
Season
Until
3.
season 3.
Yeah. But yeah, and also, speaking of selling and stuff, the soundtrack here, Cardinal Sin, Craig. Cardinal Sin. No red right hand in this movie. Gone. With the red right hand. Boom, 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 boom.
It wasn't in Scream 4 at all?
Nope. The only film in the series.
Well, that's why. You
Not
broke
that.
it.
You
You
broke
had one
it.
job.
Yeah,
You did
what-
that little whatever.
Really? It's not?
Yeah, it's not.
really
It's
thought,
the
I
only.
really
Yeah.
thought there was at least some nod to it
Like
somewhere
a ding, that
instrumentally in
little-
it.
Nope.
Yeah, that.
Really?
Zero.
Oh, I feel like I have to rewatch it. Should not
Zero.
watch 4 and
Don't
5
worry,
so
it's
close
sandwiched
together.
with so many red right hand Scream movies that you think it's there, I guess.
I need it. I look forward to it. It's like the Dewey theme.
Yep.
They only did it in Scream 2 and then Scream 5, right?
Yep.
The
Yep.
little-
The Broken Arrow.
But for some
music,
reason,
yep.
I hear it. And it's like it wasn't in all of them. Well, not one, but like for some
Right.
reason, I was thinking it was in
Mhm.
2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
and 5.
The soundtrack does have a couple songs from a band called The Sounds. Has Iron Maiden on it, the Novocaines, Stereo Black, Chain Gang of 1974, Ida Maria, Loxley, 6 Day Riot, and Say Hi. All bands and stuff aside from Iron Maiden. I don't really know them. So this was like, yeah, the original trilogy Scream. I was up on the music with those. This one, I don't know. I don't even think it had a single for the radio, did it? Greg, do you know?
I don't think it did.
Yeah. So that's
think
where
it
it went
did.
with Scream 4. So yeah, Scream goes into hibernation here for another 11 years. Every 11 years, a person will put on the ghost face. And
It's just so weird because again, I like the story of 4. In theory, it should be really good. And I've watched it so many times and I enjoy it every time. I know it could have been more than what it was, but I'm not mad at it for not being that.
Right.
But I was happy in the theaters. I saw it opening weekend. I loved it. I saw it more than one time in theaters, so I'm a chunk of that box office, I guess. But I don't know. It just makes me sad that this movie prevented the trilogy from actually happening like it should
Yeah.
have. I mean, I'm happy that it's happening now, but I feel like we should have gotten more Wes Craven Screams, but we
Yeah.
didn't.
Money talks is what happens, and yeah, it is odd. Like I don't know. I did with this one. I did. I was married, and I'd been married for a year at the time. But my wife, not a horror fanatic. I did get her to watch the Screams to lead up to Scream 4, and we went to the theater, so it was the first new one for her.
Wow.
But yeah, she watched. So if I watch any of this, like the Scream era of horror movies, she'll be down for one of those. Like, she liked Halloween H2O and the stuff like that. She'll watch those, but she's not a big horror fan. But she did like the Scream ones and went to the theater for this one. But yeah. So yeah, we'll get to that next 11 years. Next time we are not covering the TV show. Sorry, I don't have time to rewatch that for this. Jessica's never seen it.
I've seen the first few episodes of season 1.
Oh, okay.
Bella Thorne.
Bella
is in
Thorne.
it.
Yep.
And
yep.
then it's one of those things where if you can't keep up with it, like when it was airing, was it coming out weekly?
Yeah, it was
Before
weekly.
you could do the streaming, I just kind of lost track. It's like
On
get busy and then-
MTV. So I was like this old dude going back to MTV to watch Scream.
I would like to finish it. It did start out strong though, so
Yeah, it was.
I
I
need
thought
to finish it.
it was pretty good.
Any reference to the OG characters? Can you say that?
It's its
or-
own. I think it's its
No.
own world. It's its own.
It's its own world.
World.
Yeah, which is why they do a different mask even, which is really upsetting. Except I forgot why they were able to go back to. I think they wanted to use the mask in the series and they didn't get the rights. There's a whole debate about
The
it. And
weird thing, yeah. The rights
You
for
call it Scream, but you couldn't get the mask.
Yeah. Considering Scream is originated with the Weinsteins and Dimension Films, and that's disbanded and all that. It's the rights are trading places a lot going on. So like even home video rights right now, the home video rights are now at Paramount. For by the time we get to the 5th one next time, Spyglass Entertainment owns it. They were owned by Lionsgate and Starz for a bit through the 10s. That's why I think the TV show was coming out. That was who had the rights to it at that time. So yeah, but we'll get there next week before someone else finds some Ghostface inspiration. But before then, Jessica, where can people keep up with you?
Hi, I'm over at the Bob and Tom Show. You can find me Wednesdays at the Bob and Tom Show, which is on YouTube, and the Bob and Tom Show Bits and Pieces podcast, and on Twitter at Jay and Alsman, Instagram at Jessica Alsman.
More like Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Greg.
And you can find me on all social media platforms at the McGoonies.
Okay, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD. I write at Why So Blue. I almost said that. Next week, Scream 2022, the 5th one, our last piece of the retrospective portion before our reviews of Scream VI, the 6th one, in a couple weeks. Till then, stay film positive.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.